Wipro. Do business better.
Hello again from the GTB Wipro TV special at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. We're going to talk about wireless standards and in particular interworking between new technologies. This is episode 11. I'm your host Brian Dolby and I have with me Chris Bruce, co-chair of the Wireless Broadband Alliance, whose day job is Director International Sales and Consulting for BT Global Services, and Ibrahim Gedeon, CTO at Canadian operator Telus. Chris, let's start with you. Tell us about the Alliance and its role in the industry.
Okay, thanks Brian. The WBA, the Wireless Broadband Alliance, is a collection of leading operators coming together to develop standards and specifications for the interworking of Wi-Fi and other radio services. It's leading mobile operators, fixed line operators and Wi-Fi operators together with other technology partners to bring together a vision that we have to make Wi-Fi roaming from one network to another as easy and simple and secure as GSM roaming for voice.
And I guess most of your members are here, aren't they?
An awful lot of them are. Some of the leading operators, AT&T, Orange, China Mobile, NTT Docomo, KT, etc.
And Ibrahim, and Telus as well. Now, tell us about Telus, because you're one of the largest operators in Canada. Tell us about the company and its mobile side in particular.
Actually, Telus is one of the three major wireless providers nationally in Canada, and they kind of split the subscribers. So actually, we work very well with the North American ecosystem on LTE. So ourselves, the Korean and the Chinese and the Japanese in particular. So we do have a full-service wireline. We were the incumbents in Western Canada, and we've gone to HSPA, I'd say 5-6 years ago, from CDMA through that to LTE, and it's been a great journey for us. So it's kind of normalized the ecosystem. So we're huge believers in a lot of the work that Chris and some of the guys do in terms of making sure things drop down in cost. Like effectively, the subscriber wants what they want. And our job is to make sure we fulfill it, and to be viable, we've got to be part of the global ecosystem.
Now, you've come a long way to be here this week in Barcelona. Have you seen anything of interest, anything that's grabbed your attention or not?
I was told when I give interviews never to say the word "to be honest," because it looks like you were lying before. But our industry has been pregnant with IMS for so long, and the killer service is VoLTE, it seems, for us to roam. So we all have to realize these investments. So there's a lot of really good stuff on IMS. There's a lot of great work on actually backhaul, wireless backhaul that I've seen, and the device piece. And I think there's an unparalleled effort on customer value, customer experience, and some of the work and service you can do through policy and control. But in general, nothing knocked my socks off. I mean, it's a great show. I love the venue. Hate the lineups and the distance, but it's been a really good show for us.
What about yourself?
Well, yes, I've been quite impressed really with the coming together of Wi-Fi and LTE and how various parties are solving the challenge of getting the maximum from both sorts of bearers. So I had a demonstration, not in this hall, but actually in a hotel nearby, from a colleague of mine from a Korean company, and he showed me a video which was drawing simultaneously backhaul from the LTE out in the Barcelona network and the Wi-Fi in the hotel. Now, to me, that starts to get you to a best connected experience, and you're drawing appropriately from different types of licensed and unlicensed spectrum. And in my view, we need to start thinking about Wi-Fi and licensed spectrum as just radio spectrum available for us to use to tackle the huge demand that our customers have for content. And we're just going to do it the most efficient way as operators, the most technically efficient, but also the most economically efficient. And if you start to be able to draw those two sources of licensed and unlicensed together, then as the user moves, you can appropriately deliver that seamless experience contiguously and do it the most economic way.
As LTE gets more of a hold and there's more and more demand for Wi-Fi, etc., I guess that's creating opportunities and challenges for the Alliance, really.
Well, yes, I mean, I'm an optimist, so I just see opportunity, so that's where I'm coming from. And I think with the Wireless Broadband Alliance that we talked about before is an operator-led organisation with partners, but we work very closely with the Wi-Fi Alliance, which are the guys who certify the equipment and to create the standards for Passpoint, which is the seamless connection with Wi-Fi networks at an encrypted layer, but allows you to auto-connect to the appropriate network. We're working with those on the one hand, and the GSMA on the other hand, who are just brilliant at standardizing roaming agreements. So you get this method of authentication and connection for users. You get a well-proven method of establishing lots and lots of roaming agreements. And with Wi-Fi you need even more because there's such a proliferation of networks that before you know it, you've got a method of providing a roaming experience on data which is, much more to what users are expecting, and potentially all the complexity is hidden behind the scenes because we use the GSMA method of roaming.
Is Wi-Fi something that you've had as a major opportunity and challenge, Ibrahim?
I'm kind of agreeing with Chris, but I'm not agreeing wholly. I think there's a beauty around Wi-Fi. Speaking as an IETF guy, before I became a wireless guy, there's beauty in standards that are done by people who are technically competent for the sake of the technology itself. There's also beauty about what GSMA does because you can take a phone and it'll work anywhere around the world, a mobile phone. So I worry sometimes about adding the heavy duty aspect because it does take us 5 years to standardize. I do love Wi-Fi. Chris talked about the authentication, and I think that's critical for customer experience. So I don't want to tip our hand up, but we're working a lot on ePSIM and some of the standards. So I think it's great that the standards are available for our client to seamlessly leverage both technologies. I'm publicly and privately against putting too much interworking because I think it burdens both protocols when the average subscriber, one is really free-ish and one is for pay. I think it's very critical to look at the overhead we as operators, because clients expect to log on for free service. There's some expectations with free. I think when you start paying, there's different set of expectations. Yet in the standards bodies, sometimes we forget and we're geeks for the sake of being geeks and business people. And we burden the protocols without looking at actually what value prop there is for us. The reason I say that because I sometimes forget as an operator, Chris is an operator in his own right. We don't actually pay for our bills. So a lot of the use cases that our people standardize are not anchored in reality. They should talk to my sister, who actually manages the telephone budget, and she loves Wi-Fi the way it is, and she loves the LTE network the way it is. But you do need standards. I think where it simplifies your ability to leverage bits for the sake of without going into protocols. I think it's critical we get our politely stuff together, and I think the work's been happening on authentication is critical. I'm glad we've slowed down on seamless interworking between Wi-Fi and LTE, but there's no doubt in my mind that the era of mobility and wireless is converging. The old days of designing massive macro networks, we used to worry about highways. Like I remember when I started working in wireless, we'd build the highway because people are driving, they got to make a phone call. Now actually, if you're driving with a device, you're stopping, you're getting a ticket. So I think the era of mobility is being transplanted by wireless. Now none of us use, like I'm at home, I use my phone, it's on Wi-Fi, but I would never go to use my PC. Like I honestly have not replaced my PC in 5 years, but I bought every tablet there is on the market.
Okay, but that seems to me to make a case why standards are even more critical because there's so much going on in wireless.
Yeah, there is, and one needs to work with firm foundations. I once had a colleague of mine ask a question in an open forum, saying, characterising the two worlds you mentioned. He said, did the panel think that the Romans and the Gauls could ever work together? The Romans being the GSMA and the Gauls being the wild Wi-Fi folks, and both have to move a little bit. Not too much, because you're right, there are users that just want that best efforts. And I think maybe we may get into an era of operators using radio technology optimally and putting some of that overhead onto Wi-Fi as part of a seamless package. but that might be actually quite different still from the coffee shop Wi-Fi, which is standalone. It's same technology, perhaps different use case in a subtle sort of way. And one comes with, carrier grade package, and that's what you pay for, and the other doesn't, and that's what you pay for.
Well, I think, sorry, go on, one final point then.
No, I love what Chris is saying, because I think there's a big difference between people who said Wi-Fi offload because they really did not have a proper wireless network.
Okay, well, I think whatever, the debate is going to rage on, and we'll probably still be talking about it in Barcelona next year. But in the meantime, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Wipro. Do business better.